Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back with me, Miss Ira, in the presentation of CEFR, or Community Urban Framework of Reference for Languages, Learning, Teaching, Assessment. Okay, today we are going to talk about Chapter 8, entitled Linguistic Diversification and the Curriculum. Let's begin. All right. This is the table of content. They are: the first is definition and initial approach. The second is option for curricular design. The third is curriculum scenarios. The fourth is assessment and school, out of school, and post-school learning. Talk about definition and initial approach. Plurilingual and pluricultural competence refers to the ability to use the languages for the purposes of communication and to take part in intercultural interaction, where a person, viewed as a social agent, has proficiency of very varying degrees in several languages and experience of several cultures. Definition and initial approach. The concept of plurilingual and pluricultural competence tends to move away from the supposed balanced dichotomy established by the customary first language or second language pairing by stressing plurilingualism, where bilingualism is just one particular case. The second is consider that a given individual doesn't have a collection of distinct and separate competences to communicate depending on the languages he or she knows, but rather plurilingual and pluricultural competence encompassing the full range of the languages available to him or her. And then stress to the pluricultural dimension of this multiple competence, but without necessarily suggesting links between the development of abilities concerned with relating to other cultures and the development of linguistic communicative proficiency. And then the second subchapter is option for curricular design. Option for curricular design. The first is diversification within an overall concept. The second is from the partial to the transferal. All right. Diversification within an overall concept. Discussions about curricula in relation to the framework may be guided by three main principles. The first is that discussion or curricula should be with the overall objective or promoting plurilingualism and linguistic diversity. The second principle is that this diversification is only possible, particularly in schools, if the cost efficiency of the system is considered, so as to avoid unnecessary repetition and to promote the economies of scale and the transfer of skills which linguistic diversity facilitates. And the third is therefore that consideration and measures relating to the curricula shouldn't just be limited to a curriculum for each language, taken in isolation, not even an integrated curriculum for several languages. So, what about from the partial to the transferal? All right, all knowledge of language is partial. Any partial knowledge is also more than it might seem, and those who have learned one language also know a great deal about many other languages without necessarily realizing that they do. And the third subchapter is towards curriculum scenarios. It divided into two. We are going to talk two topics: curriculum and variation of objectives, and then some examples of differentiated curriculum scenarios. Okay, curriculum and variation of objectives. The selection and ordering of objectives on which to base language learning may vary enormously depending on the context, the target group, and the level in question. Furthermore, it should be stressed that objectives for the same type of public in the same context and at the same level could also vary regardless of weight of tradition and constraint imposed by education system. It should be emphasized that in drawing up a curriculum, that selection and balancing of objectives, contents, ordering, and means of assessment are closely linked to the analysis which has been made for each of the specified components. This consideration implies that throughout the language learning period, that in any language curriculum accommodating several languages, the objective and syllabuses of the different languages may either be similar or different, and then quite radically different approaches are possible, and each can have its own transparency and coherence with regard to option chosen. And each can be explained with reference to the framework. And the last is a reflection of curriculum may therefore involve the consideration of possible scenarios for the development of plurilingual and pluricultural competences and the role of the school in the process. And then these are some examples of differentiated curriculum scenarios. Okay, and those examples of scenarios of distinction is made between primary, lower secondary, and upper secondary, which doesn't correspond to all national educational system, that these illustrative programs can easily be transposed and adapted even in contexts where the range of languages on offer is narrow or where the first institutional learning of a foreign language comes rather than primary level. Okay, this is the first scenario at the level primary school. The first foreign language begins in primary school with the main aim of developing language awareness. The focus here is on the partial objectives concerned above all with an individual's general competences and their relationship with communicative competence, but without there being a structured and explicit attempt to develop this specific competence. All right, lower secondary school. First language continues with the emphasis from now on placed on a gradual development of communicative competence, but taking full account of achievement at primary level in the area of language awareness. And the second foreign language not taught at primary school actually would not start from scratch either. It too would take account of that had been covered at primary school on the basis and in the relation to first language. And then the first scenario at the second level at upper secondary level, which is in the formal teaching of first language and using the language instead on a regular or occasional basis for teaching another subject, and then maintaining the emphasis with regard to second language on comprehension, concentrating in particular on different text types and the organization of this course, and also relating this work to what is being done or has already been done in mother tongue. With this, also using skills learned in first language. And then inviting pupils who choose to study the optional third foreign language initially to take part in discussion and also activities relating to the types of learning and learning strategies that they have already experienced. And then this is the second scenario at the primary level. The first foreign language start at primary school with emphasis on basic oral communication and clearly predetermined linguistic content with the aim of establishing the beginnings of a basic linguistic component, primarily phonetic and syntactic aspects, while promoting elementary oral interaction in class. And then for lower secondary school, at the first language regular program designed to develop the different skills continues until the end of secondary school, but at various intervals. This is supplemented with revision and discussion session relating to the resources and methods for teaching and learning. And then for second foreign language, at this stage, particular emphasis could be placed on the sociocultural and sociolinguistic element as perceived through increasing familiarity with the media. Just like radio, television, popular press, okay? Just like that. Next, upper secondary school. For the first foreign language and the second foreign language, each continue in the same direction, but at the more complex and demanding level. Learners who opt for a third foreign language do so primarily vocational purposes and relate their language learning to a more professionally oriented or other academic branch of their studies. For example, orientation towards the language of commerce, economics, or technology. It should be stressed that in the second scenario, as in the first, the vital plurilingual and pluricultural profile of the learners may be uneven to the extent that, first, the level of proficiency in the languages making up plurilingual competencies varies. The second is, the cultural aspects are uniquely developed for different languages. The third is, it's not necessarily the case that for the languages in which linguistic aspect received most attention, the cultural aspect is also the most developed. And the last is partial competencies, as described above, are integrated. Okay, one of the aims of curriculum design, whatever the particular curriculum, is to make learners aware of categories and their dynamic interrelationship as proposed in the model adopted for the reference framework. And number 4, assessment and school, out of school, and post-school learning. Okay, assessment and school, out of school, and post-school learning divided into 3. The place of the school curriculum. The second is portfolio and prevailing, and the third is a multi-dimensional and modular approach. The place of the school curriculum. To accept the notion that the educational curriculum is not limited to school, it doesn't end with it, also to accept that plurilingual and pluricultural competence may begin before school and continue to develop out of school in ways which persist parallel with the development in school. And then portfolio and prevailing. The development of European language portfolio, or ELP, enabling an individual to record a present different aspect of his or her language. A biography represents as a step in this direction. It is designed to include not only any officially awarded recognition obtained in the course of learning a particular language, but also a record of more informal experiences involving contacts with languages and other cultures. In order to stress the relationship between the school curriculum and the out-of-school curriculum, when language learning is assessed on the completion of secondary education, each learning is assessed on the completion of secondary education. It would be valuable to try to provide formal recognition for plurilingualism, plurilingual and pluricultural competence as such, perhaps by specifying an exit profile which can accommodate varying combination rather than using a fastest single predetermined level in a given language or languages as the case may be. And then a multidimensional and modular approach. Multidimensional curriculum, taking account in particular or of different dimensions of the reference framework. A modular approach to qualification would enable a specific assessment to be made in an ad hoc module of the plurilingual and pluricultural management abilities. And then multidimensionality and modularity thus appear as key concepts in developing a sound basis for linguistic diversification in the curriculum and in assessment. The reference framework is structured in a manner that allows it through the categorized overs to indicate the directions for such a modular or multidimensional organization. Okay, that's all, everyone. That's all the material about the 8th chapter. I hope that you get all the information clearly, and don't forget to read the CEFR book, okay? Thank you for watching this video. See you on the next chapter or the last chapter. See you. Bye-bye, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.